Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into just 28 characters of Tang Dynasty poetry that managed to capture an entire world, a world of spring beauty, of immense imperial power, and just maybe a quiet critique hiding in plain sight. So let's start where we always should, with the sound of the poem itself.
寒食，春城无处不飞花。寒食，东风御柳斜。日暮汉宫传蜡烛，轻烟散入武侯家。
So now that you've heard the music of the language, what does it all mean? Let's peel back the layers, one by one, and look at the images the poet gives us. 春城无处不飞花. In this first line, the poet paints this vast, sweeping picture for us. In the spring capital, there is no place where blossoms are not flying. 寒食，东风御柳斜. And here, in the next line, we really start to feel the atmosphere. On the day of the cold food festival, an east wind slants the imperial willows. 李母寒宫传蜡烛. Okay, now notice how everything shifts in this third line. The time, the place, the whole feeling. As dusk begins to fall, candles are passed out from within the Han Palace. 轻烟散入武侯家. And the poem lands on this final, really evocative image. Their light smoke drifts and disperses, entering the homes of the five marquesses. So we have these beautiful, vivid images. But to really get what's going on, we need to understand the world they came from. Let's go back to those first two lines, the ones that set this broad public scene. First things first, the title. What exactly is the Cold Food Festival? Well, it was a real festival, and its core tradition was to remember a famously loyal official who died in a fire. To honor him, for a few days, nobody, and I mean nobody, was allowed to light a fire. It was a shared custom, something the entire community did together. And look how beautifully the poet builds this public scene. He starts wide, with Spring City, that's the bustling capital of Chang'an. Then he gives us this incredible double negative, no place not flying flowers, which is just this really poetic way of saying the entire city is absolutely exploding with blossoms. It's this gorgeous shared experience. But then he zooms in, from the whole city to the imperial willows, pulling our attention right to the heart of power. And in the second half of the poem, everything changes. We go from the bright light of day to the dimming dusk. We move from the open city streets to the private, very exclusive world of the palace. And this is where we get to the central tension of the poem. Remember that no fire rule that everyone had to follow? Well, turns out there was a loophole. The emperor had the unique privilege of granting candles, a source of light and heat, to his absolute favorites. So just imagine it. The entire city is sitting in the dark, following tradition, while the palace is literally handing out light. It's the ultimate status symbol. So who are these lucky few getting the candles? The poem calls them the five marquises. Now, this isn't literally five guys. It's a poetic reference, a loaded term. And scholars have argued for centuries about who the poet was really talking about. Was it a historical nod, a jab at the powerful court eunuchs of his day, or maybe even a veiled critique of some corrupt officials? In the end, it works as this timeless symbol for any privileged, well-connected inner circle. And that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? What are we supposed to make of all this? Is this poem just a description of a lovely spring day and an old imperial custom? Or is the poet using all this beauty to say something much sharper about the world he sees? This is where the poem is so incredibly clever. It never gives you a straight answer. The real meaning is found in that ambiguity, right there between the lines. Over the centuries, a few main interpretations have really taken hold. Some scholars are convinced it's a subtle satire, a sharp critique of inequality wrapped in a beautiful package. Others see it as the total opposite, a poem praising the peace and prosperity of the empire. I mean, look how glorious the capital is. And then there's a third idea, that maybe it's more personal, the quiet complaints of a scholar who feels overlooked, watching all the rewards go to the insiders. But here's the kicker, the story that comes after the poem. Legend has it that the emperor himself, Emperor Dizong, read this poem and loved it so much that he immediately promoted Han Hong, who had been kind of stuck in his career. Isn't that wild? It suggests that whatever critique is in there, it's so subtle, so masterfully done, that it was seen as a work of genius even by the very power structure it might be questioning. So we're left with this breathtaking picture, right? A city of flying flowers, wind in the willow trees. But just beneath that surface, there's the smoke of privilege, drifting only to a select few while everyone else is in the dark. It leaves us with a question that feels just as relevant today as it was 1,000 years ago. When does beauty serve to hide a difficult truth?